Hey, how's it going, everyone? Grant Cohn here with Jack Hammer. Today, we're going to be talking about the Niners roster moves and the big topics facing the team right now. But first, we'll start with the roster moves. Jason Verrett, IR. Raheem Mostert, IR, out for the year. So in corresponding moves, they called up Dante Johnson, who's back, and they signed running back Kerryon Johnson, who I liked coming out of college. He went to Auburn. He was prolific in college. He was drafted by the Lions, and now he's on the Niners practice squad. What do you know about Kerryon Johnson?
I know that he was with Philadelphia in the preseason, and he was cut due to an injury, which was, believe it or not, a knee injury. That's why he was cut. So it's a perfect signing for the 49ers.
Unreal. I had no idea. Knee injury, huh? Well, that's great. In his career, he has, 283 carries. He's averaging 4.3 yards per carry. But he was good his rookie year. Uh-huh. He averaged 5.4 yards per carry, 2019, 3.6, 2020, 3.5. Seems like the kind of guy who'd be on a practice squad in 2021.
Yeah, he was a really good back when he first started off with Detroit, and I think he whatever happened with him, something happened, and he ended up in Philly, and they cut him with that knee injury. So it's okay. I mean, he's really there to fill in until Jeff Wilson Jr. comes back.
Certainly, and he does have he can catch the ball, 61 catches, 8.6 yards per catch. I don't know. It seems like he's one of these running backs who probably got beaten up and worn down pretty quickly. He's 5'11", 211 pounds. Not exactly small, but he would be – I would hope that the Niners would trust Trey Sermon to play over this guy.
Oh, I expect him to. I expect that's going to be the situation. You'll have Sermon and, it's going to be Mitchell, Sermon, and Hasty will be your three. Okay,
so he's on the practice squad, and it's basically depth to tide him over until Jeff Wilson Jr. comes back.
That's the way that I see it. Yeah. I don't see him beating out any of the three that are ahead of him right now.
But it is important for them to sign a running back because they're down to 3 on the roster and none on they needed a guy on the practice squad.
No, you're not. You want to have somebody that's out there running the ball for the scout team and stuff like that. You don't want to have one of your best guys doing it. So let Johnson be that scout team guy.
This guy was a second-round pick in 2018. And real quick, I mean, he rushed for 1,300 yards in 12 games in 2017 on an Auburn team whose quarterback was probably nobody. So, I don't know. Maybe if he can have a career resurgence like Jason Verrett and all these other players who have had so much success doing that with the Niners, he's in the right place. If you have a torn ACL or some type of knee injury and you need to bounce back, go to the Niners because training staff is A+. Whatever they're doing, it's something in the water in Santa Clara.
Oh yeah, no, it's like I heard somebody say today, this is kind of like whatever happened. It's almost like Trent Baalke never left. We just keep getting these guys that are injured with these knee injuries over and over again, and hoping that nothing happens to them. It's crazy.
Makes me wonder if it's an organizational thing that's even bigger than the general manager spot. If it's like a Parag Marath thing.
It could be because you're looking. It's like a Moneyball type of a situation, right?
It's definitely a Moneyball situation
for cheap, and he can carry us over while we're paying these other guys the big money.
Right, like the rest of the league is so conservative and stuck in the past and worried about these injuries, but we're progressive and we trust the advances in science and all. Nope, be careful.
Right.
Let's talk about. So they elevated Dante Johnson. That's the next roster move that we want to talk about in the sense that, look, if they have Diamador and Emmanuel Mosley, they're 2 solid corners.
Yeah.
But if Mosley doesn't play, and we don't know. When asked, Kyle Shanahan says he hopes, so it means like he'll probably be limited this week, and it'll go down to the wire. If he doesn't play, I think things get interesting. That's interesting for me, dicey for fans, because I don't know who the next guy up is. Who do you think is the next man up if Mosley can't go?
It's going to be interesting because I think Johnson was the first guy up on Sunday, right? Mm-hmm. Now, does Josh Norman have, after a second week of practice, have enough time under his belt to be able to be the guy that plays over him? In a lot of ways, I kind of hope so. I think that's the more interesting story. And
it better be Josh Norman is the answer. Yeah.
Yeah. It should be. It should be Josh Norman over him. He'll have 2 weeks under his belt. At that point, it's not like they ask these guys to do too many things that are outside the scope of what NFL cornerbacks do. It's not like it should be that hard for them to figure out cover 2, 1, and 3, and so on and so forth.
See, I think this is a potential issue for the Niners. I think they're like way closer to the Brian Allen game than people realize. And I don't know if the Eagles are the team that can really do it to them, although they have some talent at wide receiver, 2 first-round picks. I'm not sure if they have to start Norman this weekend. Thinks that's an equalizer. I wonder what could happen if they have to do that.
I don't think there's anybody that they have on the roster that's as bad as Brian Allen was last year for him in that one game.
Is Brian Allen still in the league? I would think not.
Yeah, I don't know that poor guy. I know he's just become a punchline. That's worse than Tom Compton, and But point. I feel bad for him. But that's kind of So I think they'll be okay. Definitely, they're going to be good. I think they'll be really sad if it's Mosley, but if it's not Mosley, then it's going to be a little interesting.
Yeah. Philip Hammer says BT Dub not related to Jack. These moves reek of either desperation and or a conflict between Lynch and Kyle. If this season goes bad, who gets the axe?
Yeah, I think you go with if there was one of those guys who's going to get fired, I think it's going to be Lynch first, and then Kyle.
I would agree.
Second.
I would agree.
It's easier to move on from Lynch. You already have his replacement in the building. You might not have Shanahan's replacement ready yet. If that'd be a move where if maybe D'Amico Ryans in a year or two could be the guy that would replace him if you want to keep it in house and not go with somebody from outside. But with the 49ers, I think you go with Peters and he takes over that job.
I just don't know. That might be what they do, but scapegoating John Lynch and firing him and promoting from within, how much does that change?
I don't think it changes a whole lot, but I also don't think that Jed York is a guy who really likes to have major changes. He has guys that he trusts and he believes in, and I think you saw that when he went from Harbaugh to what poor guy Jim Tom Sula, So you can almost see something like that happening again here with the general manager position.
Yeah, I wouldn't like it because if all they do is keep everyone and fire John Lynch, it just seems like a sacrificial lamb. Like you didn't change anything. You fired someone to appease your fan base or the media, but basically it's the same operation.
Yeah, because everything else would remain the same. No, correct me if I'm wrong, but
he's right. But I don't like that. I already don't like it.
No. But what I was going to say is when Lynch took over, didn't they keep the majority of the scouts when they took over? There wasn't a whole lot. It was just basically at the top of the operation that changed,
That's true.
Not the wheels of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not saying that they won't do it. I just would think like, is this the right way to go?
Yeah.
Are you really going to make? See, to me, that's just scapegoating. But they may do that. The only thing is here. Let's say they do get rid of John Lynch. Does that mean more power for Kyle Shanahan or less? Because the way I always read it was Lynch is here because Shanahan has a lot of power. He basically vetoed all the, from what I understand, all the applicants who had experience and basically didn't want to have to go against someone else with strong opinions.
Yeah, I could see that being the case where maybe he loses a little bit of his power because
he is like an actual personnel man. Yeah,
bring in an actual GM who's going to dictate the personnel on the roster instead of letting Kyle have so much say in it.
That would be very interesting.
That'd be
highly interesting.
It'd be a major shift in the way things are being handled right now.
Yeah, I'd like to see how Kyle responded to that.
Yeah.
Human Race Win says, conspiracy alert. Ooh, I like that. Jimmy plays well enough and A. Rodgers tanks. Niners trade, maybe throw in Bosa. Salaries work. Both teams need to rip the Band-Aid.
That's a good one until you get to Bosa. Bosa is one of the things that's holding this team together right now.
I would think that the Packers need to give Jordan Love a chance at some point. But I don't know. Teams these days, you just trade up to the number 3 pick, and all of a sudden you change your mind before the season starts. You know what? We like Jimmy. Just kidding. We like Jimmy. Fooled you.
Well, we can talk about. Let's come back to that one in a little bit after we get on talking defense.
The Niners. It was an elaborate joke. They traded up to 3. They got a guy, and then season starts like, ha. Jimmy's our favorite quarterback of all time. Jimmy Garoppolo played a hell of a game week 1. I was so down on him after watching him against the Chargers in particular and his own defense that I thought, man, there is no game that he can't give away right now. And he was just basically lights out. From what they asked him to do, he was money. What did you think of him?
I thought he played really well. I thought they didn't ask him to do too much, right? They asked him to do the stuff that they normally would do, is over the middle throws and just basic stuff that they run, but it all works because of their running game. When you get that running game going, and you're able to hit a couple of those linebackers start to step up, and it opens up the middle of the field. Yeah. And so they got the running game going, and Garoppolo was hitting early, and it all just worked out. His first half was about as good as he's played since 2017, probably.
Agreed. 2017, huh?
Those first 5 games, he had some really good games in there that were, where he was hit a pretty high completion percentage. That was definitely, was by far his best.
He was
opening.
8 of 8, 9 of 9. What did he get to?
Well, he was. I think he got his first 8. I think. I know he finished. He finished 9 of 12 in the first half. I think he had his first incompletion probably around number 8. I think he goes 8 for 8. Then he had incompletion.
Okay.
Right in the ballpark.
Now hold on. I want to counter here.
Uh-huh.
You know what this game reminded me of a little bit of? To me, last year against the Jets. Now he didn't make it through that game. He got
sure,
hurt, but he went 14. I just looked it up. 14 for 16 in that game.
Yeah.
131 yards, 2 touchdowns, 140 quarter. He killed the Jets. Got hurt, left. All I want to say is Jimmy is good enough to put a whooping on a bad defense. He's done it before, and I think maybe I get carried away talking about his negatives. He's definitely a serviceable quarterback who has and can and will put hurtings on bad defenses. So I'm glad to see that he did that again.
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, the reason I go back to 2017 is because he was moving around a lot better. He was moving around a lot better than we have seen him since. The brace is off. He's he was able to escape sacks a couple of times. I know the one time he threw the ball away, he got the grounding call, but he played really well in the first half, and he played decent in the second. There was a lot to like about his performance.
Are they going to trade him at the end of the year? Is this all an elaborate pump and dump where they do it for 12 months and then they get something good for him next year when the cap goes up?
I think it's going to be. I think they're going to probably move on from him at the end of this year. Okay. I think that's where we're. Why I said let's get back to this, because you're talking about the trade up, right?
Yeah.
I think a little bit about where I'm going with this because I mentioned it to you before. I think what happened was the original target was to stay at 12 and take the kid out of Alabama, Mac Jones. I think that was the original target, and I think that's why everybody got this wrong, because that's where they were going to go. Because they really liked him, but they weren't able to do anything with Garoppolo. They weren't able to get anybody in to be the backup. They were going to go with Jones, have him start, and they were going to have a backup like Andy Dalton or one of those guys, and they weren't able to get any of them. And then once that fell through, they pivoted and they said, okay, we're going to keep Jimmy for a year, maybe 2. Let's go with the guy with the higher upside that's going to be able to play maybe 2 years down the road. And then that's why they think they went the way that they did.
Makes sense.
I think Garoppolo. We're giving Garoppolo. We give Garoppolo a hard time. He's. It's funny because I was with you, and I'm still with you in terms of I would have started Lance, right? Mm-hmm. But you talked about the San Diego game, and after that San Diego game, I don't know. Maybe I was just looking at it differently because I knew at that point. Maybe it's because I knew at that point Lance wasn't going to beat him out, and it just seemed like that week in practice, it seemed like he was better. Leading into the Raider game, just saw him getting the ball down the field on time better. Still over the middle of the field.
So here's what I want to ask. So whether or not Jimmy Garoppolo is better right now than Trey Lance, he's a starter, and we both think he won't be the starter next year. Mm-hmm. So what I'm saying is, okay, people are saying, well, it's not going to hurt Lance to sit on the bench for a year and learn. Like, he's not ready now, and it helped Mahomes, and it helped a lot of quarterbacks. What I would say, though, is I'm not sure that it necessarily is good for Lance to sit another year. He sat last year, and he doesn't have much playing experience. He played 1 year in college. I don't know how much he played in high school. It seems to me that if you get to next year and Jimmy has a good year this year and basically holds off Lance and it's his team and they go to the playoffs and win a game or whatever, and then you're like, okay, now we're going to trade Jimmy and move to Lance. Well, now you're looking at it's like, well, we have a good team and Lance hasn't played in 2 years. And we don't even really know how good he is because we didn't really play him. I mean, isn't that a potential outcome here?
Yeah, it is. And that's why I would have liked to have seen him get into the game in the second half, especially towards the end. But that's when the problem with that was they were up, 38-17. They made the kick field goals 41-17. They got the ball. And that's when it looked like they might make the switch, but they kept him in there. They went 3 and out, and then all heck broke loose.
Right. No, I understand. I mean, look, the way the game ended up, it justifies not playing him. But I still think that Kyle probably going forward needs to be proactive, looking for opportunities to get him on the field, not just to run the zone read either. I asked him yesterday on the conference call, like, basically, how is using him like Taysom Hill developing him as a quarterback? And he gave me one of these kind of, because it's better than nothing, is what he said, essentially. It's like, well, not really.
No,
It's not really. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. No, it's not. I didn't like the way that they used them. But the way they started off using them made sense. They put them in the red zone. It was perfect, right? You have him in a good spot. You run him on the first time, and then he throws a play action pass for a touchdown. That all was good. But then the next 2 times you put him on the field or in the middle of the field, and you're just running the ball. What are you doing? Just hand the ball off to Elijah Mitchell on 3rd and 1 instead of doing that kind of garbage.
Yeah, exactly. So it's only week 1, and I think what Kyle probably is doing is building the Trey Lance package up, maybe like 4 snaps week 1, 8 week 2, and then when you get it to a game where you may not necessarily be the overwhelming favorite, you can unleash something if you need it. Because I'm not necessarily certain they can beat the Seahawks with Jimmy Garoppolo the whole way. I mean, they may need a little bit more explosive element in their offense in some of these division games, and maybe that's what they're building up to. Because you could argue, you don't need to show that. There's an element of surprise that the Niners still have up their sleeve, and you can beat Detroit without revealing that yet.
Sure. Yeah. No. And I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. That could be one of the explanations for why he's doing what he did on Sunday. I just didn't like it, but that's the one thing. If I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, that's what I would say is maybe he's just trying to save something, but I don't really know how much saving there is because I think pretty much everybody that's watched him can go back and watch his film and know what he's going to do with this guy.
Yeah, we started talking about Jimmy Garoppolo, but it always comes back to Trey Lance because even the biggest Garoppolo supporters would say that he's not going to be on this team next year, and they have to find a way to get Trey Lance ready and confident. They get the whole team confident that he's ready to take over next year. And one thing I want to say, I think people forget, Patrick Mahomes started a game as a rookie.
He did. Last game.
Week 17. Yes. They had a playoff spot locked up. They let him start, and he looked really freaking good. And he won. So it made the whole transition a lot easier. Like, okay, he's ready. He's ready. And we were just being conservative and cautious for the sake of it. Fine. And Alex Smith was great too. So at some point, I'd like to see Trey Lance start a game this year. I'd like to see him finish the season with 50, 60, 70 throws because why not? Now, it'll be tough, but if you can do it week 17, great. Find a time.
Yeah, I think they should be able to get him 60 or 70 throws this season. If if they don't get him that number, then they've done him a disservice. And the organization.
35 his rookie year. That's it. But
yeah, he only got those were all in the last game of the season.
That's right. Yeah. Yep. 22 with 35. Real quick. 22 with 35, 284 yards, no touchdowns at a pick.
Yeah, he was good though. It was his first start. For his first start, he played pretty well. It wasn't like he was bad at all.
That's true. All right, let's answer some questions real quick. Hold the phone. Okay, here we go. Here. Yo, what up, Grant? You a legend. Do you like my name? Guess who inspired it? I'll drop another $5 if you're right. Oh, problem bless. I do like your name, but I don't get it.
Oh, no.
Problem bless. I don't get it. I don't know. Sorry. But I appreciate the $5 you gave me. Problem bless. Raymond Martinez Jr. says, "Sup, G's? Do you think sending the message of getting rid of Jimmy because of his injury problem would have made the rest of the team fear the same thing?" I see what you're saying there. That's an interesting point. Raymond makes good points. That's very clever. I don't know. Hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, I get the direction that he's going here because the 49ers have a lot of guys. That's one of the things that they've been selling, right? This whole, we stick by you kind of thing through injuries. And they've kind of stuck with that. So I could see where he's going there. I think the issue with getting rid of Garoppolo is beyond the injury piece. So there's too much like for Garoppolo in the locker room. To just make that move without him losing the job.
I think they probably could have traded for Matthew Stafford and gotten rid of Garoppolo, and even I think most of the team would have been on board, if not right away after the first practice. But that's not what they did. They traded for a 21-year-old. It's a veteran team. He didn't play last year. He came from 1AA. I think it's natural to expect a lot of players in this team to say, whoa. Like, what is the expectation here?
Yeah. Plus, he's what is he? 21. He's only 21 at this point.
So when they drafted him.
Yeah, so he just turned 21. So he's he's young too. So that could be part of what they're looking at. Who knows?
Yeah. Steven says, I think you nailed it. Niners are great with late round picks because Kyle checks out. Keep him out of the draft room. Pass on Asante Samuel Jr. for Banks. Exclamation point, question mark, exclamation point. There's very few people in the history of the NFL who've been both great coaches and great personnel guys. It's just the way the NFL works is every single job, you have someone who does it 7 days a week, like 15 hours a day. And now you're trying to compete with people who do one job that much, and you got 3 jobs. It's hard. It's impossible. I would say it's impossible, but I know there's certain people who have figured out ways to do it.
Yeah, go through the guys who Kyle chose, and none of them I don't think have panned out at this point.
Because it's like, Kyle, I know you trust your perception, but you didn't spend as much time getting to know these prospects as the scouts did. The scouts have been knowing these guys since they were sophomores in college. They've interviewed people about it. They've talked to their teachers. You watch some clips for like 10 minutes, man, maybe 20, and you had a good first impression. But these scouts do this for a living. They cross-check how good is your track record really, Kyle? Be honest. I don't know. I'm with you.
Yeah, no, go through it. I mean, you got the running back the first year who didn't even make the team, and it goes,
now
Dante Pettis.
We're going to talk about Aiyuk too, but like, dude, hey, you're your guy.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, you go from loving Dante Pettis to like making this. I mean, trading up in round 2 for Dante Pettis was a bit of a hot take. Like, no one else would do this, but I really like him. Or the CJ Beathard in round 3, and then you give up on it, and now CJ Beathard's tearing it up preseason with Jacksonville. Anyway,
yeah, it's all over the place.
Does Kyle have you spooked? You've been really timid asking him questions recently. I have. Yeah, I'm spooked. He got me spooked.
He got you spooked. Yeah, okay.
I mean, I don't know. I'll come with the heavy hitter stuff. I didn't go at him too hard after the game. He won. He beat the Lions. What am I gonna do? Grill him after a win? I mean, that's insane. So sure. I asked him, like, were you planning on using Trey Lance? And he was like, yes, I absolutely was. And if we'd gotten one more stop, I was going to bring him in. We were going to argue with him in the press conference. That's such unprofessional. Then yesterday in the conference call, I asked him, like, do you think this is the right way? Why do you think this is the right way to develop Lance? And he gave a bad answer. I'm not going to argue with him. We just talk about it. Okay, that's what you wanted to say. Fine. Yeah. We'll talk about it all week. But I'm not going to be like, hold on a second, Kyle. That's not a good answer. Wait, can't you do better than that? Maybe my dad would do that, but I don't think. I've never seen like an argument ensue in a press conference.
Yeah, I don't think it was quite at where there needed to be a fire back at him on that one. But no, it wasn't a very good answer.
Wait till he loses a game. We'll see what I got at that point. Maybe I'm ruled. Wait till he loses. NC Niner fan says, off-topic question: where will they practice in West Virginia, and are fans allowed to attend? They're practicing at the Greenbrier, and fans are definitely not allowed to attend practices during the year because the NFL is super secretive. And God forbid they let people watch their practices because the whole operation would fall apart.
So what happens? Because the Greenbrier is a resort, right? So that must mean they shut down.
West Virginia? No, I didn't know.
Isn't that what it is, though?
I don't know.
Okay.
I haven't been there. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right.
I bet it is. I'm sure it is. It's like, yeah, okay. I'm sure West Virginia has nice parts. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I've never been to West Virginia. I don't know.
They have a great song. I mean, Country Road's great.
All right. Injuries. The Niners did everything they could to avoid them in camp, and now they're popping up in the regular season. And I think, at least my first reaction is, there's nothing the Niners can do to avoid it. It's the makeup of the team. It's the players on the team. All their good players are injury prone, or most of them are. And so I guess some of them are going to get injured. That's basically my takeaway. What's yours?
Yeah, no, that's it. I mean, look at the 2 guys who are injured. You have Jason Verrett, who's spent almost his entire career injured, and Raheem Mostert, who once he started playing regularly has been injured throughout his whole career. So, Yeah, it's rough, and that it is a deal where it's the makeup of the team. It's who they're choosing to bring on board, and that's why I laugh when they bring on Kerryon Johnson,
Right.
regardless of what he does. Is that you're bringing another guy that's injured? That's obviously why he's available to begin with, though.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Not
I think I heard you were talking yesterday, and you'd mentioned somebody being like the baseball player for the Giants, Cody Ross. Yeah, and who was it? Who was? Oh, I was gonna. The better one there is actually Raheem Mostert. Raheem Mostert is Cody Ross. He had one blow it out game in a playoff game, and the 49er fans love him forever because of that.
The other thing, look, I love Mostert. The thing about him, he's kind of like a baseball player whose career batting average is like 380. You're like, this guy's amazing, but he's played like 60 games in his career. He's played something really low, but he's batting 385. It's amazing. Uh-huh. But I mean, you can't. He's not going to be on your team. He's going to play about 5 games a year for you, and he's going to belt the ball while he's out there. But yeah, he's only going to play about 5 or 6 games. That's exactly. And I feel it stinks. I feel bad for these guys. They put a lot of work in there, but at the same time, if we're being realistic, these guys just aren't guys that you can count on. And it's, the Mostert piece is interesting. If you go back to the preseason, and this is Mostert and Javon Kinlaw both tweeting out about how they're not injured. Well,
I mean, Mostert had 2 runs and then he was done.
Yeah.
And so, if it was just a situation where all they thought they were going to have to do was clean out some cartilage around his knee and he could come back and play, but instead he thinks it's better to take the entire year off to really get it right, then that means he wasn't right to start with.
Absolutely not. So I think what we learned is in the future, if a player takes to social media to say that they're not injured when no one said that they were, it means they're injured and they're not going to last long. We learned that. That's what we learned. One thing I want to say about the injury thing, if John Lynch gets scapegoated, or if the Niners feel like they need to go in a new direction, and then what the new regime would do, the first thing they would need to say is, we're going to fix this issue right now. We are going to prioritize durability and availability because this team beats itself consistently by not having their best players on the field. I'm just saying that if I were Jed York and I were hiring new people, that would be what I wanted to hear, a solution to this problem.
Yeah, and that's what it's got to be. I mean, that's when we were go back to the free agency. That for those first couple of days of free agency, where everybody was excited because they got Samson Ebukam and Alex Mack, both guys who had a history of being, able to stay healthy, and then that was great. And then they just started bringing back all their guys with injury histories, and that's where you just kind of lost me.
Right. Robert says Trey looks slower than I expected. Maybe that's why he didn't run the 40. What do you think?
Well, I go back to Lance is the guy who needs to get going. I think that's partly why he doesn't, with the way that he runs the ball, he's not an exceptionally fast guy that's quick of foot, meaning like to get started.
His first couple steps, yeah.
Yeah, he takes a couple steps to get going. And so this isn't North Dakota State when it comes to the defensive linemen and how fast those guys are. These guys are much faster. We saw that in the Kansas City game when he tried to sprint up the middle of the field and got hit pretty hard.
Yeah. Eddie says thoughts on trading the 3rd and 4th for Gilmore.
He's injured though.
Injured. How about that?
I mean, he's injured. He's on injured. I think he's on injured reserve right now. Is he not?
I don't know.
I think he's. I think that's what I saw where he's out for the first 6 weeks.
Robert says, Grant, your Jimmy G impression is almost as good as your Kyle impression. Hilarious. Should do a Kyle talking to Jimmy skit. Okay. I'll think about that. I like that. Thank you. Steven says, fire Kyle, get Saban, end of story. Saban. Interesting. I don't think Saban wants to come to the NFL. I'll tell you that right now.
I don't think he does either. He's way better off where he is because he's got a team that's 4 deep compared to everybody else.
I bet he's looking at Urban Meyer at Jacksonville like, see?
He's probably looking at him, see, you should have waited about another month and a half, and you could have been the head coach at USC.
That's right. He thought he had it made because he got Trevor Lawrence. He's going to blow that. He's going to mess it up. If Lance barely plays this season, wouldn't Lance be pretty upset about how the team is trying to develop him? That's a good point too. We don't really think about that because he's a rookie and he says all the right things. But did you see that thing? It was Albert Breer. He was talking about. It came out today. He had some quotes from Jimmy Garoppolo about the 2 quarterback system, and there was a line from Breer in it that there wasn't any quote, but he said that when he talked to both quarterbacks about this, each was tepid about it. Like neither one really liked the idea, which is interesting. I could see Jimmy not liking it, but Trey not liking it. I had considered that, but of course, why would either quarterback like this?
Yeah, no, why would either one of you? Because that's the one thing, every pro athlete they all believe that they're the guy. And there's no position that's more true about than the quarterback position.
Yes.
Because you're getting the ball in your hands all the time. Everything rides on your shoulders every week. And that guy, and you don't want to share that with anybody else. And that's why when you heard what Garoppolo said today on the radio, hey, I don't have any problem with him saying that he didn't want to, isn't really excited about going over and hugging Trey Lance after a touchdown. I wouldn't want to be either.
Why should Jimmy Garoppolo lie? He does enough for this organization. He has no ego. He basically says, does whatever they say. I mean, it's fair for him to be candid. I do question how seriously he takes the position. But you can't question the fact that he has a much smaller ego than most franchise quarterbacks.
And he's definitely trying. He's trying to be the team guy. He's just, and he'll go give him 5 or be happy for him. But he's not. It's not like there's not something. I think what he was really saying was, I'm
a normal person.
Exactly.
A normal response to this. Like I would feel the same way, man. If SI brought in some 21-year-old dude because I wasn't doing well enough, and they're like, okay, but he's not ready because he's 21, but he's definitely going to take your job. But we need you to just knock it out. I mean, I would knock it out, but I would not be happy about the situation. And I know it wouldn't be his fault, but I wouldn't like him at all.
Right. Yeah, no, you wouldn't at all. There's no reason to.
No, absolutely not. All right, Brandon Aiyuk. This is so bizarre. They traded up for him in round 1. He played well his rookie year. I didn't think he was bad in training camp, and I knew that Dante Pettis was crashing and burning in training camp. Aiyuk didn't do anything like that. He wasn't vaccinated initially. I think he's vaccinated now. He dropped some passes in preseason, true. Mm-hmm. He's benched. He's the number 0 targets. I was really surprised by that. What do you make of all this?
Yeah, it's interesting. I went back and I watched the game this morning because I wanted to do a write-up on it because it's been talked about so much. I really wanted to go back and focus on what he was doing. And I think it just has to do with the fact that they were splitting what Shanahan said, right? They're splitting reps. That's basically what happened. And that position only got targeted 3 times throughout the game. Sure. When you watch with him on the field, one of his first reps on the field is him running vertical to get Samuel open underneath. So I think really whether it was Aiyuk or Sherfield, for the majority of the game, their job was to take the top off the defense for the underneath routes.
Yeah, I think what's happening here is if the 49ers want to commit to running 55, 60% of the time, which I think they do, then they know that most of their targets are going to have to go to Kittle and Debo. Like, you don't want to limit Kittle and Debo to 5 targets, 6 targets. Debo got 12. Kittle got what? 5?
4. 5. He got 5. He's at 4. He only had the one that almost got picked off.
So I guess you could say instead of giving Debo 12 targets, you could give him 6 and Aiyuk 6. But frankly, Debo is the best player on the field until he fumbled. So I don't have a problem with what they did.
No, I don't either. And then the other piece that you got to go back and look at is Aiyuk had a really good season last year, but his numbers all came without either of those other two. Yeah. Well, yeah. And it was also without, for the most part, without Samuel and Kittle on the field.
So he was getting targets by default.
Yeah. And that goes back to what Shanahan said yesterday too, right? Where he talked about how the guy behind Aiyuk is better this year, right. And so that's why that's part of it.
The guys in front of him are better too.
And I have no problem. I have no problem with it because I really look what Sherfield did. Sherfield went on the field and he does a good job blocking. He ran a really nice route for the touchdown. He did a good job catching that deep curl too. So there's nothing to not like about him.
If they had called, so they call a pass for Trey Lance in the red zone, and it's a short pass, and that's his problem. I mean, it's his first pass of the game. It's a short pass. There's a possibility he's going to drill this. And who do you want, Brandon Aiyuk or Trent Sherfield?
Sherfield, because they've had a rhythm together. Exactly.
You've already seen Aiyuk drop a short pass from him. So, I think, I get it. I do get it. It'll be interesting to monitor what happens here. But the good news is that you could spin this as it's not so much that Aiyuk is crashing and burning like Dante Pettis did. It's that this Trent Sherfield guy is the truth. He's like really good, really good.
Yeah, no, he's definitely way better than I think. I know he's better than any of us gave him credit for when they made that signing. And Ayuk's going to get his catches this year. It's not like he's going to go throughout the year without getting targets. So, I don't think there's anything major going on here. I just think it's the way that he's not necessarily he's like 2B, right?
Yeah.
Sherfield's 2A and he's 2B.
Right. Swan Song says Rodgers wanted Aiyuk. We should want Eric Stokes. Both late first rounders. Make it happen, Kyle. That'd be interesting. Trade a wide receiver for a corner.
That would be a good move because Stokes is a good guy, good player.
Yeah, that's very creative. I like that. Problem Bless says hire Chris Sims as GM if this year doesn't work. What does your name mean? You got me. You got me on the edge of my seat on that one. I like that though, Chris Sims.
That's great. It's creative.
Hire me and Jack because we're never. Well, the thing about me is I'm never wrong. I always make predictions and hot takes, and I have 100% batting average. It's remarkable. It's just quite rare. Voice ad agency says think Lance does not like 2 quarterback system because he does not like coming in completely cold to run or make a throw. I think which quarterback in the history of the world has liked this?
Oh yeah, nobody. I mean, could you imagine? Yeah, I don't think there's anybody. I don't think Steve Young would have liked this when he was playing with Joe Montana, right? And
no, neither one would have liked it. They would have no.
No, I think they probably would have had a fight with Bill Walsh.
Money Gang, new member. Thank you very much. Andre says, "Do you think Shanahan wanted Mac Jones over Lance?" Yeah.
Yeah, I think it started that way.
The social media backlash from Niner fans, instigated by me, was intense. It was really intense, and I just think the organization was like, Kyle, you don't want this, Kyle. You don't want the heat you're going to get if you take Mac Jones number 3. And I think Kyle thought about it, and he was like, it's a lot of heat, man. Like, not only are people going to call me dumb, they're going to call me racist. They're going to call me racist. And I think he figured that out and was like, man, I want to be right, and I like being right, but I can't risk this. And I'm going to back off this Mac Jones thing. And honestly, the organization did him a favor because if he wanted Mac Jones, he should have stayed at 12. Moving up to 3, I mean, he may end up being worth the number 3 pick, but he wasn't the consensus number 3 pick. You basically misread the market if you felt you had to move up to number 3 to get him. So
yeah, if they traded up with the expectation that it was going to get Mac Jones, I agree with you.
Yeah.
That's why I like to think that they didn't because I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Right. Otherwise, it's like, damn, guys, what was your method here? We got to talk about the process. Mm-hmm. Jerry Morphin says, I am more worried about the Eagles than Packers. Me too. Running quarterback, what do you guys think? And can we seriously win the bowl with our current cornerbacks? Look, the Packers have serious issues on their offensive line right now. And Aaron Rodgers looks like he doesn't want to be there. So I do actually think that this Eagles game might be the most difficult of the first 3 weeks.
I think that we're all being that there's a little bit of a prisoner of the moment with both those takes. I think that you and I have gone back and forth a lot. Of week 1 is always weird, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that the New Orleans Saints are 35 points better than the Green Bay Packers, and I don't think that the Philadelphia Eagles are necessarily that much better than the Falcons either. I don't think they're that much. Period. So I think the 49ers should win this week. I think it's going to be a closer game than we might have thought in the beginning, but I still think that they're the better team here.
I'm just saying, I'm not sure that the Eagles are better, or that the Packers are better than the Eagles. There's something weird with the Packers this year. And there's like, it's like an intangible thing, but I mean, Rodgers doesn't want to be there. Like, he's playing there against his will.
And I think that could definitely be part of it. That could be part of what's playing into it because, he wasn't around all all off season until training camp, and that was a couple days into training camp, I think, when he finally showed up. He's
unprepared for the season, and he looks out of shape with his hair. I don't know. He just looks so disengaged.
Everything about this season is him. This is his last year, and it's almost like it's like when you have that head coach that everybody knows is getting fired at the end of the year.
The lame duck.
That's really how this feels.
Yeah, and I'm not saying the Eagles are a good team, but they did win a Super Bowl, and they have a lot of those guys still there. And I think what happened, not to talk about them too much, but they really were a fractured team the last couple of years. That locker room was split. They didn't like their coach. They didn't seem to like Wentz that much. Some people wanted Hurts to start. It seemed like what their organization's been able to do is just clear out Wentz, the coach, just pick a quarterback and get new guys in there. And now, you can see like they still have Fletcher Cox, they still have Brandon Graham. I mean, they're not the Lions. They're intriguing. I mean, they might be better than the Giants, the Washington team. I mean, it might be them and Dallas in the East.
Yeah, I would say they're better than the Giants. The Giants are a real bad team too. So yeah, I would say they're probably either the same or maybe a little bit better than the Giants. And Washington, who knows what happens with Washington with their backup quarterback
All
situation.
I want to say is I liked what I saw from Jalen Hurts in this game. I thought he looked way better than he looked his rookie year.
Yeah, and plus they have an elite backup quarterback too.
Joe Flacco?
Yeah.
So good. Absolutely. No, I thought their defense, though, like you can write off their entire offensive output as like, well, they faced the Falcons defense. I don't even know who's on that unit. But I don't know, like the Falcons offense has Matt Ryan and Kyle Pitts and Calvin Ridley. And I just thought that they would be able to put up more than 6 points. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
We saw what this Eagles front did to Mike McGlinchey last year. Did Fletcher Cox play in that game? I don't think he did.
I don't remember that.
So
I mean,
one skill, Mike McGlinchey, get ready, baby.
Yeah.
Get ready.
I think Garoppolo would be a little bit better though than
Probably.
will hit some of those throws that poor.
They should be able to run the ball. Even teams with good run defenses struggle to stop the Niners' run game.
Yeah,
because they have Elijah Mitchell. Elijah Mitchell looked really good. I don't know if he's as good as Mostert because again, I think Mostert's like. Anyway, I thought he was such a natural, but Mitchell also looks like a natural. What do you see from him?
I told you this back in the first day, like for one of the first days we were out there at camp together. I thought he was the best looking running back. I just love the way he runs. Everything he does is going forward.
Yeah.
All the time. Even his cuts are, even when he's making a cut, it's still got a forward momentum to it, and he just has really good lean. Runs people over, runs through arm tackles, and yeah, that's there. I don't know what else to say. He's a strong runner and he's fast, and he showed that he can break it. He's not. They don't have. I mean, there's nobody on this roster. I don't know if there's anybody in the NFL that can do what Mostert can do in terms of, when he gets to the outside, he's going to get 8 to 10 yards a lot of times on those outside runs. I don't know if that's going to happen, but he's a guy who's going to be able to be a powerful runner for them.
I think the thing with Sermon that's interesting is he isn't explosive. And so on the outside runs, he's not taking him a while to get to his sprint spot. And I think Mitchell's a much better fit because he can get out there really quickly and then get upfield. Whereas Sermon's taking a long time to get out there and he's not being able to get upfield. I think what's interesting is he's a little bit like the other Ohio State running back the Niners had, Carlos Hyde. In the sense that big guy and you think he's going to be punishing between the tackles, but what he ends up doing in the NFL is bouncing outside. And we like a guy like Mitchell who's exploding upfield, and it's like that's what I saw with Carl. To me, Carlos Hyde was maddening. I know he's still in the league and he has success sometimes, but it's like, dude, you're not a finesse back. Get upfield. And he was constantly bouncing. And I wonder if Sermon is that way too. Like, you need to get upfield now.
Yeah, he does. There's a part of that we saw in camp and that we've seen of him where he needs to just be getting upfield. He needs to get that forward momentum. He's not as explosive as Mitchell. He's not in that class, but he's a good running back and he's gonna do well, I think.
Yeah.
Just didn't he talk a little bit about wasn't there talk about how he was getting coached up pretty hard by the coaching staff and needing to get used to the speed of the game? I think that was the offensive coordinator that talked about that, about him needing to be tighter to the blocks and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So. Well, they're going to need to use him in this game. It seemed like they wanted Hasty as like the third down back, but they didn't want to give him too many carries. Mm-hmm. So someone else, they can't give Mitchell 25 carries a game, can they? Maybe they can.
I don't think they're going to want to give him that many, but who knows? I mean, they might have to.
They gave him 19 his first game. That was surprising. They really trusted him.
Yeah, well, that's what happens. I think the thought was that they were going to, he was going to probably get around 10 or 12, but most are leaving it, after few plays like that, that kind of threw that all out the window.
Yeah. Andre says, should our strength and conditioning coach be replaced? No, I think it's unfair to it's like you have an injury-prone team, you bring in a new strength and conditioning staff, and and they're unable to take injury-prone players and make them healthy. It's like it's not their fault. They're trying to work miracles here, guys.
Yeah.
What are they supposed to do with Jason Verrett? And they did a good job with Jason Verrett. They got more out of Jason Verrett than anyone really ever has.
They got a lot out of him last season.
Yeah. 49ers First Take says, looking back now, Mostert scolding the media for calling him injury prone wasn't totally out of line. Him and Verrett are what they are, injury prone. Again, we said earlier, if a player all of a sudden starts getting mad about people calling him injured, but no one's called him injured, they're injured. End of story. We learned that this year. All right. Nick Bosa and Dee Ford, both healthy, both played well against the Lions. This is good news for a 49ers team that just lost Jason Verrett, because last year they didn't have either one of these guys. And they had a top 5 defense because they had some serious coverage. Jason Verrett, Jimmy Ward, Fred Warner, they were locking people up and manufacturing pressure. Obviously, they're not going to be able to do that this year. So the return of Nick Bosa and Dee Ford is really important, right?
Oh, yeah. And they both played really well on Sunday. I mean, I know Ford had Mosa had a little bit of trouble there with the rookie. But I think part of that, Penei Sewell had been stuck over on the right side, and I think the 49ers got a little bit of a bad break by him being able to go back to left side. I think that's we could talk about that with Aaron Banks later on if we wanted to, because he's dealing with the same thing, right? Switching sides. But Nick Bosa made plays throughout the game, and one of the best plays that he made wasn't even a tackle. He has no credit for it, but it was the fourth and 1 play. I think it was 4th and 1 on the Lions' first possession, and they slanted him. He slants inside, and his penetration forces the running back to have to cut, slips, and they shut him down. And that's just him. That's a run play where he doesn't get a stat on it, but you see him flash across his face, and that's why the running back stops his feet.
Yeah, these two guys are really, really important, and I think they should be able. If they have Bosa, Ford, Lenore, Mosley, Warner, Ward, they should be pretty good against the pass.
They should be able to hold their own.
Yeah. My question, they're going to have trouble against the best. They're going to have trouble against quarterbacks who can buy time. They're going to have trouble against elite wide receivers. Who doesn't? I don't know if Deommodore Lenore and Emmanuel Mosley can lock up DeAndre Hopkins. I'm not sure how the Niners are going to do against the Cardinals, but they should be really good against most passing offenses. My question, though, is really the interior of the D-line. What was that? What was that run defense? They couldn't stop split belly zone.
No, they were getting pushed all over the field. It didn't really matter who it was. DJ Jones was getting pushed around. Contavious Street was getting pushed around, and for sure, Kerr and Givens, they've struggled at run defense all throughout camp. That was one of the things.
He's like 280 pounds. He shouldn't be on the field on first down. And then Kerr, I was surprising. I thought he was like a nose tackle-y type of hard to move guy. Like that guy couldn't hold his ground at all.
No, and they really moved everybody around, and I think that goes back. The center is really good there, and that's something to be concerned about. That's concern, and that's a concern this week because Kelsey's a pretty good center as well. So it's going to be that could be a problem, and that's where maybe Kinlaw, when if he ever gets healthy, maybe he helps that out a little bit, and that's his role is basically just to be a space eater in the middle of the field and force teams to have to run outside.
Look, if Kinlaw doesn't get back soon, they might have to scrap this wide 9 for a while because it's usually terrible against the run. And with Kinlaw and Saleh, they made it work, but I don't know, man. If you're just going to get gashed between the tackles, you're not a good defense. I don't consider you a good defense if you're going to give up 8 yards a carry between the tackles. Oh, yeah.
No, and the one thing with the 49ers defense is they did a good job, though, even though they gave up those big chunk plays of when those happened, they never gave up points off of those drives other than the screen throw. But on the running plays and stuff like that, they gave up chunk plays throughout, but they did a really good job of shutting those drives down eventually.
Yeah, certainly. So I didn't. This is a positive topic. I'm not trying to turn it into a negative. Dee Ford, Nick Bosa, it really will help offset the loss of Jason Verrett. And the season they're not screwed because they lost Jason Verrett. In fact, you could argue that, a season, like if Javon Kinlaw were to shut himself down for the season, you could say maybe that would even have a bigger impact because that run defense was a problem, a definite problem.
Yeah, it's going to be when you look at the 49ers division, it's going to be a problem against the Rams. It's going to be a problem against the Seahawks. Maybe not so much against the Cardinals because they don't run against the Cardinals. Yeah, but against those other two teams, that's probably where you're going to see the biggest problem. I don't know how good the Eagles are at running the ball. So I think they're going to be okay these next couple of weeks. But that Seahawks game week 4, that could be a problem.
Real quick though, now that I mentioned, I'm a huge Cardinals fan. All of a sudden, I'm not a Cardinals fan. I'm just a Cardinals enthusiast, and I know everything about their team. They have a great center. Rodney Hudson, I know he's better in pass protection than run blocking, but any team with a really good center or guard against if Zach Kerr's playing big minutes,
Yeah.
Kinlaw, come back soon, dude. If you can only give the team 30 snaps, they could use 30 snaps. Kirk can't play. Kirk can't play against a team that can run the ball. I'm sorry. That was alarming.
Well, yeah, and
Not
same
the
thing.
wide nine.
Well, and same thing with Givens. They were both getting pushed around quite a bit, which was as you said, it's alarming because Givens played well last year in the middle when he had to play a lot of snaps. He seemed to play well. So maybe it's just a week one thing. Who knows?
Maybe.
But
Maybe they need to knock off this wide nine thing. There's something to think about. They used to have a five-man front package that they used the first 2 years here, and it was good against the run. It is good against the run. Fangio uses 5 on the front.
yes, no, yeah,
Something
that's where
you don't have to stick with the wide nine if you're getting gashed.
yeah, because that's where they bring the Sam up. It's kind of the end, right? Yeah,
Just kind of compress, move the sand up, 2 linebackers. It's not that hard. It's not a big
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but going back to Ford and Bosa, they had pretty good. I mean, Ford was a stud. Ford looked like the guy that they traded for.
Yeah.
Right. He looked really good. I mean, the interception doesn't happen if he's not on the field. I mean, he's right in Goff's face when that ball comes out, and they used I liked when they did it a number of times throughout the game where they put in all 3 of their defensive ends at one time.
Yeah.
They had Ebicom rushing from the inside, which was a little bit of a change up. We didn't see that in training camp. I know we saw all 3 of them on the field together, but I don't remember in that alignment. But it sure worked out at the end of the game. That was a really nice twist that they ran in the middle.
I want to say one last thing here. I think one thing the Niners learned from week 1 is you really do have to manage some of these injury-prone players a little differently. They didn't mismanage Mostert at all. But, Verrett getting injured late in a game, if there's one player you would take out late, he would be at the top of the list because of his history. So, moving forward, with the Niners, with D Ford in particular, you got to look at him as basically an injury waiting to happen. So you want to manage his snaps as much as possible. They did a good job of this in this game. If you're winning big, you don't need to play him. You basically want to play him as little as possible. Yeah,
that would be the spot where you want to see Samson Ebicom playing in his role.
So you need D Ford, but you don't need him too much. You got to be very judicious with how you use D Ford.
Yeah, but that's rough though, because if you want to get D Ford off the field, you're going to put Ebicom there. That's what we're saying, right? Or at least what I'm saying.
Right.
But at the same time, Ebicom's back, the guy that backs up Bosa, and if Ford's off the field, you kind of want to have Bosa off the field at the same time. And so there's
that key in, and now it's like, where's your pass rush? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what we saw happen on Sunday was, Verrett goes down, and they played a couple of snaps with everybody, but about 3 plays into that, after that injury, it's all deep. All the backups are out there, even with the first touchdown when they made it 41-25. And then the second possession is backups the whole way down the field.
Yeah.
So we saw them pull those guys out. And what's hard, and I made the same thing you're saying, and a lot of people are saying, why are those guys even on the field when it's 41-17? I made that same comment, and then I started looking back at it. I'm like, well, shoot. You take him out, but what about Jimmy Ward? What if you kept Jimmy Ward in the game and Jimmy Ward's the guy that gets hurt because he has an injury history too? Or Jaguarski Tart, Bosa, Ford, Alshair's dealt with injuries this offseason. Yeah. Greenlaw, he got nicked up. So it's crossed. It's really hard. They're in a tough situation.
Let me tell you what I would do if I were D'Amico Ryans this week. This is what I would do, but maybe it's too big of an adjustment. This is how I think Saleh would do it. He was very game plan specific by the end. You're going up against a quarterback who wants to get outside the pocket and is dangerous outside the pocket. You want Jalen Hurts in the pocket. He was good in the pocket against. You want him in there. You want him to prove it. So that Eric Armstead is one of the worst base DNs in the league at containing quarterbacks. He does certain things well. That's not one of them. Mm-hmm. Also, they're going to want to run the ball. They're going to run the ball a lot because they saw what the Lions did. Miles Sanders is a hell of a back. They have a very interesting running game because Hurts is a part of it. They're going to test that. They're going to run between the tackles. What I would do is I would use a 5-man front in this game. You're going to have to face a lot of zone read. I would want a 5-man front. I would bring Ebukam in as the third linebacker. Put him on the line. That way, it's going to be much more difficult for the Eagles to roll out. by design on bootlegs, waggles, nakeds. Way more difficult for them to roll out Hurts with Ebukam waiting there because he's just as fast as Hurts. If it's not him, if it's Armstead on the edge, to me, it could look a lot like what the Eagles game looked like last year or the Bills game looked like last year. Just a quarterback getting out in space at will and just kind of picking you apart. Now, he's not as good as Josh Allen, of course, but that has been the Niners' Achilles heel on defense, and I think Armstead's a big part of that. Ebukam is here to fix that. I would like to see him on the line. I'm just saying. They can stop the run with 4, great. If not, get him on the line, use a 5-man front.
I would like to see that too. I think that's part. This is why you brought him here. One of the main reasons why you brought it, Samson Ebukam here, is to play these types of quarterbacks.
Thank you.
I don't know about that big of an adjustment. The adjustment that I would say I'd like to see because of what we've seen already, I'd like to see them move Nick Bosa inside because I think he's the stronger run defender out of all those guys, and have Bosa play inside with Ebukam outside of him, and then the rest of the Armstead out wide to the left and DJ Jones inside. I think you have DJ Jones, Nick Bosa, Ebukam, and Armstead. I think that's the better route. Would be a route that I would be interested in going.
Warner make a few plays, but not great. What happened?
He played okay. I mean, I don't know. Our expectations of Warner are sky high. That could be part of it. I don't think they really gave him.
It's hard to make plays when the defensive lineman in front of you are getting blown off the ball.
That's a big part of it. They were, those guys were, when you watch the film, they're getting to the second level all the time.
Yeah. Is the Ravens the only East game Garoppolo has lost?
Yes.
Super Bowl was in Miami.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I'm just saying.
that's
Technically,
true.
they was in Miami. So those two. But he's good on the East Coast. Maybe he's just naturally always on East Coast time.
Maybe that's what it is.
In practice because he's. I don't even know.
Because it's that time. East Coast.
All right, Jack. It's 5 o'clock. We got to let people go home. Thank you very much for watching our show while at work. We appreciate that. It's very nice of you, Jack. This was a hell of a show.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Definitely, for sure.
All right, guys. I'll be back tomorrow. See you guys then. The Niners are in West Virginia. I'm definitely not, and I'm not mad about it. I'm happy in Oakland, so I will not be at practice tomorrow. We'll be watching together on YouTube. Everyone will be watching stuff on YouTube. Niners PR. We got to see your YouTube skills. See you guys in the YouTube comment section. I'll be up in there later. Jack, shout out your show.
Oh, yeah. No, well, I'm going to be doing Niner Chatter here in about a half an hour.
There you go.
Tonight.
If you want to be part of the broadcast, call up Jack. See you guys.